We're talking with Charlie Mitchell. He's the editor-in-chief of Take Action News. You can also follow him on Twitter at CFMTAN. And Charlie is a veteran congressional reporter, and he's our veteran congressional reporter. Charlie, one of the things that I saw about the minimum wage is, you talked about the Republican opposition. This was definitely a sop to the left. This was something that organized labor could get excited about because it improves their bargaining position up and down the spectrum. It's something that they've been calling for a long time. But he didn't mention organized labor at all during that speech. Some people were disappointed about that, though certainly not the first time. What sort of, in terms of the economic left, the coalition that would include, obviously, sort of organized labor at the center of that, and a number of other liberal groups, including your MoveOn.orgs and women's organizations like Now, if we're looking at a grand bargain that would cut Social Security, what did the president essentially lay out in the State of the Union address that could be considered genuine concessions to the economic left?
I actually think that he took a very triumphant, I'm in the position of strength here tone in this, and was representing the left, if you will, on issues like equal pay for women, the minimum wage, immigration, climate change, a whole list of things where he staked out a much, much stronger position than the president was staking out in his first term. So, I think from that perspective, that labor and the president's allies on the left were probably pleased with that. I also thought that when he talked about the budget and, the need to get away from fiscal cliffs and all of this nonsense that's just been tying up the system for the past couple of years, that he basically said, look, we agreed to spending cuts, and we've accepted $1.5 trillion or $2 trillion, whatever the number was. And you get into these vast trillions, and it becomes meaningless pretty quickly. But he said we're more than halfway there on the deficit reduction that most mainstream economists say that we have to have. Now let's tighten up the tax code. Let's squeeze out some of these benefits and breaks that big oil is getting, and that that people who are making $1 million a year are getting in terms of their write-offs and all of that. This isn't talking about changing the marginal rates. It's talking about loopholes and write-offs and everything. And he's talking about aiming it squarely at corporations and the wealthy. I think that he made an offer, or he showed a willingness to negotiate on Social Security and Medicare a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and the Republicans walked away from that. And I'm not sure he's going to go down that trail again. I think that folks in the progressive community who might be worried about this maybe don't need to be quite as worried. The way I heard it, he said,
Well, Charlie, what do you make of sort of Jay Carney confirming this past week at a press conference that while the president was taking the Medicare eligibility age off the table, chain CPI, the modification in the way Social Security benefits are adjusted to inflation, which would cut Social Security benefits, is still on the table? Do you take that to be sincere or sort of a gesture of good faith to outmaneuver the Republicans?
I honestly take it as more of a gesture of good faith, that you can't say categorically that this or that is off the table. But I also think the way that he's shaping these negotiations is kind of apparent in the speech of saying, he's not going to go down the trail of turning Medicare into a premium support system. If ever he was lured down that by John Boehner 2 years ago, he's certainly wised up, and he sees that there's no advantage to him, and I think that he probably fundamentally, personally disagrees with it. So I don't think that that's going to happen, and I think that we're talking about Medicare. Medicaid protects a lot of senior citizens, and it protects the most vulnerable people in our society, the poor. This is their access to health care. And every read that I've been getting from the White House and from the administration and Health and Human Services and all of that is, the Republicans have made their charges at Medicaid. They've been trying to turn it into a voucher system or whatever it is, and they're not going to go along. And every read I get from Obama is that, in his 4 years, that particularly crucial piece of the safety net is going to be protected. So, I mean, there's a certain amount of body language that you have to read, and, you know, there are negotiations that are coming. And Daniel, I won't disagree with you. Once you get into a serious negotiation, anything could happen. But I think he laid out some pretty bright lines here of what the president finds is important and what he's really going to, you know, what he's really going to lay down the line on to protect.
Well, Charlie, I agree for the most part, and I certainly hope so. Charlie, thanks for coming on again, and we're going to be watching these debates very closely in the coming weeks.
Great. Thank you, Daniel.